The champagne flute slipped from between my fingers, but I barely registered the crash as it shattered against the restaurant's marble floor. Around me, relatives gasped and servers rushed forward, but all I could focus on was my mother's voice, still hanging in the air like poison. The venue money is going to Lily's graduation trip instead. Emma's card got declined again anyway. She announced it casually, between bites of her $60 steak, not even bothering to lower her voice as nearby diners turned to stare. The wedding planning lunch I'd been looking forward to for months had transformed into my public execution. My name is Rebecca. I'm 26 and a junior graphic designer. This is the story of how I learned that sometimes family is built, not born. For 3 years, I'd saved every possible penny from my modest salary. Design programs by day, freelance projects deep into the night. Every dollar earmarked for the wedding my fiancé Nathan and I had meticulously planned. Nothing extravagant, just something meaningful that represented the life we were building together. My parents had promised to cover the venue costs. It wasn't a mansion or luxury hotel, just a restored barn with string lights and wooden tables. The kind of place that felt like us. That promise had been made over dinner last Christmas, sealed with hugs and my father's assurance that family always shows up for the important moments. I'd believed him because I wanted to. Because despite a lifetime of evidence to the contrary, I still thought my wedding might be the exception to the unspoken family rule: Lily first, Rebecca never. Growing up as the older sister meant watching Lily fail upward through life with an impressive safety net. My straight A's earned nods. Her C-minuses prompted celebratory dinners for trying her best. I worked through college while she totaled 2 cars my parents replaced without hesitation. I was naturally responsible. She was still finding herself. The table had gone silent after my mother's announcement, crystal and silver suddenly deafening in trembling hands. My Aunt Teresa cleared her throat. "Europe is so educational," she offered. "Lily will really benefit from the culture." My Uncle David nodded sagely. "You're so practical, Rebecca. You'll figure something out." I stared at the smear of sauce on my mother's plate, unable to meet anyone's eyes. "But I've already booked everything. Sent the invitations. Paid deposits." My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "Oh, about that." My mother dabbed her lips with a napkin. "I already called the venue and cancelled. Got most of the deposit back." The restaurant continued bustling around us, waiters delivering desserts, couples celebrating anniversaries, all oblivious to the moment my family was casually dismantling my future while ordering crème brûlée. "It's a lesson in financial responsibility," my father added, reaching for his wallet. "You can't expect people to fund extravagance." My uncle laughed. Actually laughed. "Kids these days think weddings need to cost a fortune." Within minutes, relatives were checking their phones, making excuses to leave early. No one looked at me as they hugged Lily goodbye, congratulating her on the European adventure she'd done nothing to earn. I watched them walk away, these people who shared my blood but apparently nothing else. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at vendor contracts and a savings account that couldn't possibly stretch to cover what my parents had promised. "Maybe we should just elope," Nathan suggested gently. "No," I said, my voice finding its strength. "I'm done disappearing to make things easier for them." The humiliation had only begun. 2 weeks later, Instagram showed me what I hadn't been invited to: a pre-adventure celebration for Lily. My mother's caption: "Getting our baby girl ready for her European experience. #proudmom, #family first. Family first." The irony wasn't lost on me. Then came the grocery store. Ramen and day-old bread, my new wedding budget diet. When I heard my mother's voice one all over. Rebecca's wedding was getting too extravagant anyway. We had to step in and be the adults. Mrs. Peterson from church nodded sympathetically. Such a shame when young people live beyond their means. They hadn't seen me yet, standing frozen behind a display of discount pasta. The final blow landed on a Sunday evening. Dad called, his voice cheerful as if nothing had happened. "Rebecca, honey, we need a favor. Can you design Lily's going-away party invitations? You're so good at that stuff." I gripped the phone tighter. You want me to work for free? For the party celebrating the trip you cancelled my wedding for? It's family, he replied, his tone suggesting I was being unreasonable. Besides, it's good practice for when you start your own little business someday. My own little business. As if my career was a cute hobby. That night, Nathan found me at our kitchen table surrounded by spreadsheets and vendor emails. The laptop screen showed our wedding website, still announcing a date that no longer existed. I'm not giving up, I told him before he could speak. And I'm not crying anymore. What my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to learn, was that I'd been quietly building something alongside my little job. Weekend design projects, wedding invitations for friends, logo packages for small businesses. Work I'd never mentioned because they'd never asked. They also didn't know about Nathan's Aunt Victoria. Victoria had built her event planning company from nothing after her own family had chosen sides in her divorce 20 years ago. When she heard what happened, her eyes had narrowed in a way that made me sit straighter. They think they've written the ending to your story, she said over coffee the next day. Let's show them they don't even know what book they're in. While my parents posted daily updates about Lily's shopping sprees with #BlessedParents hashtags, Victoria and I were touring venues, recalculating budgets, and creating something beautiful from the wreckage. I overheard Mom talking about teaching me not to dream so big, I told Victoria one afternoon as we reviewed flower options. Then Dad asked if they should get Lily diamond earrings for her pre-trip celebration. Victoria's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Perfect timing. The invitation arrived 3 days later. The laptop screen showed our wedding website, still announcing a date that no longer existed. I'm not giving up, I told him before he could speak. And I'm not crying anymore. What my family didn't know, what they'd never bothered to learn, was that I'd been quietly building something alongside my little job. Weekend design projects, wedding invitations for friends, logo packages for small businesses. Work I'd never mentioned because they'd never asked. They also didn't know about Nathan's Aunt Victoria. Victoria had built her event planning company from nothing after her own family had chosen sides in her divorce 20 years ago. Heavy cardstock, gold foil lettering. You're invited to celebrate Lily's European adventure. Please bring a homemade dessert to share. Of course. Even at Lily's party, I was expected to work. I arrived at my parents' house that Saturday with a 3-tier cake balanced carefully in my hands. The family was gathered in the dining room, exclaiming over Lily's new luggage, paid for with my venue money, no doubt. Rebecca made the most amazing cake, Mom announced, like she was doing me a favor by acknowledging my existence. Thanks, I said, setting it carefully on the table. I have some news to share too. Oh, did you finally set a new date? Aunt Teresa asked. Something more realistic this time. I pulled out my phone, thumb hovering over the photo album I'd prepared. Actually, Nathan and I got married last weekend. The room went silent. Forks paused midway to mouths. My mother's wine glass froze at her lips. What? She whispered. Beautiful ceremony at Willow Gardens. Small, intimate, perfect. I scrolled through the photos Victoria had taken. Here's us cutting the cake. Here's our first dance. Oh, and here's the venue you said I couldn't afford. Dad reached for my phone, staring at the images. How did you? With what money? You taught me to be independent, I said, taking my phone back. So I learned to depend on myself instead of promises. But we're your family, Mom's voice cracked. We should have been there. Family shows up, I replied simply. You chose not to. Lily finally spoke. Rebecca, I didn't know. Of course you didn't. You never ask about anything that isn't about you. I looked around at their shocked faces, these people who had spent years teaching me exactly how little I mattered. For so long, I'd dreamed of this moment, not out of cruelty, but from a desperate need for them to see me, just once. The wedding was beautiful, I continued. Victoria helped plan it. Nathan's family was there. Our friends were there. People who actually love us. Victoria. Dad asked. Nathan's aunt. The one with the event planning company you said was too fancy for people like us. I smiled. Turns out she specializes in helping people plan weddings when their families let them down. Mom started crying, not the delicate tears she shed at Lily's dance recitals, but ugly, mascara-streaked sobs. We can fix this. We can have another ceremony. No. The word felt powerful, almost healing. You can't fix years of choosing her over me. You can't fix making me feel like I had to earn love while handing it to her for free. I picked up my purse and headed for the door. Rebecca, please. Dad called after me. I turned back one last time. Enjoy the cake. I made it myself. Just like everything else in my life. That was 8 months ago. Nathan and I celebrated our first Thanksgiving without family drama. Just us, Victoria, and friends who became our chosen family. The holiday passed without tense conversations or subtle comparisons, just laughter and second helpings. My parents call sometimes, but I let it go to voicemail. They sent a Christmas card to our new address. I don't know how they got it, but I returned it unopened. Lily came back from Europe and moved back in with them. Turns out traveling doesn't magically create a work ethic or independence. She's still unemployed, still expecting them to solve her problems. Meanwhile, my little business has grown enough that I quit my day job. The company that couldn't possibly succeed now has a waiting list and 3 employees. Turns out when you're not constantly doubting yourself because your family treats you like you're not good enough, you can accomplish amazing things. I finally understood that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when it matters. Their silence didn't hurt me anymore. It freed me to build the life I actually wanted. If you've ever had to stand up to family betrayal, your story deserves to be heard. Sometimes the family that matters most is the one you choose for yourself.